Very glad to welcome you each this morning. As we have done now 4 of these neighborhoods conferences that we're now calling Experience Bellevue, we've worked to make it so that we are doing more and more things out in the community, things that you enjoy or things that you would like to share with your neighbors, friends, or things that you've never done before. So that's why we've called it Experience Bellevue. Looking forward to the 3 weeks together. But as we started a couple years ago, we're going to do again today with a fairly informal conversation with our council members. And then we are going to be done right at 9:40 because you all need to head to buses that we want to have you on tours with. Would mention as well, as many of you know, we have both Chinese and Spanish interpreters with us today. We're continuing to learn, so appreciate your flexibility and appreciate the interpreters that are serving with us and cultural navigators that have helped us put together the event for today. So I'm going to start very first this morning. Just go down the line. If you would just introduce yourself by name and how long have you been on City Council? So we'll start with the Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Good morning. We can do better. Good morning. We can do much better. Good morning. Okay, great. My name is Mo Malakutian, and I have been on the council, I believe, 4 months and 5 or 7 days. That's about it.
Good morning. I just want to thank you all for being here today. It really is exciting to see so many come out on an early weekend morning to spend time with us. So thank you. I'm Lynn Robinson. I'm the mayor of Bellevue. I'm my 3rd term being mayor, which are 2-year terms, and I believe this is my 11th year on the council.
I'm Conrad Lee. I've been on the council for 31 years. And I've been living in Bellevue for 55 years. So it's been a long time. A lot of people probably know me, and I know many of you, but I'm really glad to see so many new faces, people I have not met. So thank you for getting involved and come to talk to us.
Well, good morning. My name is Janice Zahn. I have been on the council for 6.5 years, so excited to be here. Thanks.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Dave Hamilton. I joined the City Council on the same day that our Deputy Mayor did, so 4 months.
Good morning. Thank you all for being here, and thank you to staff for putting on this event today. And tremendous turnout, all-time record, actually, close to 200 people. So thank you so much for being so engaged. Jared Newenhouse. I've been on the council since 2018.
Yeah, good morning. It's really great to see you here, and looking forward to the conversation. I'm John Stokes. I've been on the council since 2012, and my 4th term. And I'm really looking forward to working with you and talking with you about this and the community. I think over this whole time period, I've seen us a lot better in working together in the community and working with each other and working with different groups. And I think that's something that the Bellevue Council and the Bellevue staff really does well, and we want to keep that up. So glad to have you here and good to hear from you. Thanks.
Councilmember, we'll keep the microphone with you and then we'll come back this way. So our first question is whether it was something as community volunteering or running for student government or reaching out to a public official. What was one of the first ways that you became involved in public service, public involvement? What was one of the very first opportunities for you? So Councilmember Stokes first.
Well, fortunately, I had a number of opportunities. I lived in a small city outside of Houston, grew up in Texas and from East Texas, and before we came up here, found the lovely place to come up here. But my first public involvement was actually with the community, with Boy Scouts, and working with, and my mother had a den, Cub Scouts, and I got very involved in that, and that was something that put me on a really good path and something that I enjoyed doing. And there are a lot of ways to do this, and working with the Scouts has been very good to me. And interesting thing is now I've been invited to come talk to a number of Scout groups, and particularly when they're having meetings and all. So it's just been something that I've followed through my life.
Councilmember Newenhouse.
Thank you. Great question. This will date me a little bit, but I haven't been on the council for 31 years. But When I was a sophomore at the University of Wisconsin, I accepted an internship with then Governor Tommy Thompson, and he ended up putting me on the communications team that was working on this piece of legislation called Wisconsin Works. This was a pioneering welfare reform policy in the state that not only helped those that were looking for work, but also really championed working families and individuals by helping them go back to school, as well as providing childcare. Now, this policy ended up becoming a national framework and signed by Bill Clinton into law back in 1996. And that policy in the late 1990s ended up dramatically decreasing the amount of individuals that are on welfare and radically reduced the numbers of those in poverty. So that was my first experience.
Well, I've had a number of experiences that really made an impact on me growing up. But one of the first ones I remember is that I served in Olympia as a page when I was kind of middle school age. And we got to go down for 2 weeks. You would live there. We lived with kind of a host parent that would take care of us and run us back and forth to the campus. But we had the chance to be, for me, to be on the Senate floor when legislation was being moved, and had the chance to be in the offices of senators and just kind of the hustle and bustle of what was going on at the Capitol. One thing that we got to do too, and you could learn quite a bit, is that at the time, and it was a very old elevator, but it was a manual elevator. And one of the best jobs you could get was to actually be able to operate the elevator. And it was really a challenge to get it to land evenly. So sometimes people were stepping down, they were stepping up to get out. But we were in that elevator, and you hear these little conversations going on, and it's really intriguing. And I think that was one of the things that planted a seed for me and just made me even more interested in public service and government.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Actually, two thoughts came to mind. The first one about volunteering was when we came to the States when I was 10 from Hong Kong. We lived in Federal Way, and I have this image of the group of us pulling blackberries and bramble on the side of on the ramp of the freeway getting onto I-5, and we were in the newspaper, and it was just something that was just really memorable to me, that a group of people can get together and make a lot of progress in a short period of time. But the one that, when I thought about engaging with public officials, was actually in my day job at the Port of Seattle. I got involved in the Capital Project Advisory Review Board, advising the legislature on how to make sure that we're improving how we build. And the board comprises of the four corners of the legislature, so 2 senators, 2 House Democrats and Republicans, and just being able to be in that space where you get to hear the different voices and figure out how to change legislation to make things work better is something that I always carry with me, that it can be really challenging in that space, but then the products that come out is just so much better because all the voices had a chance to work on it. So that is something that sticks with me. Thanks.
Councilmember Lee, your first public involvement.
Thank you. I'm always an outgoing person. So when I was young, I always wanted to get involved. I was curious. So say, what's going on? What can I do? But since I was born in China and in Hong Kong, I was brought up as an immigrant, as some of you are. You know, the last thing you want to do is to be involved with a public official. If you are, you're in trouble, or you need them help, or you're going to be, not very going to be in anyway. That's not what you want to do. However, when I came to the United States, I find out that, well, it's not the same thing. Public service is really the ultimate. I always volunteer for many things. When I was in school, the same thing. When I was in high school, I always volunteer for sports team. We have clubs, and I'm always involved. And so even though I'm not the best of anything, I'm probably a jack of all trades, master of none, but because I'm involved in so many things. But in this country, I know the most important thing, the most impact you can make is in public service. It's going into politics because we make policies that affect everybody. In a country like, again, different from the United States, you just have to do whatever you can do. and just do what impact you can make. And you do make a lot of difference. If it's by yourself, you cannot make too much impact. You can make too much difference. You have to work with other people. So you guys, we are very fortunate to be in this country, get engaged, meet with a public official, and I came to Bellevue. I involved with Transportation Commission, but I still don't know any public official. I don't need to have it because I think this country is of the public, for the public, and by the people. So stick with it, get involved. Thank you.
Well, I grew up doing volunteer work from a very early age. My mother was very interested in getting her children out into the community doing volunteer work. But I think one of the things I did that really impacted my thoughts on government was I was involved in high school in the incorporation of our city where I grew up. And there was a lot of people for it and a lot of people against it. It was a big battle. But ultimately, we did incorporate, and I was on that side, so I was pretty excited. And the first thing the city did was to put a park in. And so the people who were opposed to that were, including my parents, were like, oh, what a waste of money. Nobody's ever going to use it. And to this day, and this is, gosh, how many years later? 40-something years. 30 to 40 something years later, it is a very popular center of our town, and it was a great idea. And that town, it was very good that they incorporated because they ended up having issues that they needed to really gather to solve. So it was a good experience.
What was the town?
Town of Moraga, California.
That's awesome. I learned so much from you all. Mine was, I was right out of the college, 18 or 19, and I discovered an orphanage who was helping kids with disabilities. So I started volunteering for them, started with 2 hours per month, just hanging out with 2 kids that they had some disabilities, and that was my first involvement in the community.
Thank you each. So next question, what has been, and maybe very recent, in the last week, or maybe go back a few years, what has been a conversation that you have had with a community member that's really stuck with you? Maybe you learned something new or you really resonated with that you want to carry forward. So something from a community member that you've heard that's really stuck with you. Mayor. Deputy Mayor.
Yes, it was about the same orphanage. There was a woman that has been working in that orphanage for 10 years plus, and she told me she does that because she believes she's so blessed, and by spending her time with the orphanage with disabilities, she's kind of giving her dues back to universe. So I just said, I need to do that. I am so blessed. So I made a contract with universe to keep me as I am and blessed. And I am just going to give back all of my time that I can back to the community. So stick with me till today.
And you do that. So I love this question because when I was doorbelling in my first campaign and did a lot of doors, and it's such a great exercise because you really learn what people like about your city and what they don't like about the city. And what this woman told me has really been a guiding light for me since that time. She said she lived in Enitai, and she said she never came downtown. And if they had tourists come, they went to Seattle. And there was nothing in downtown Bellevue that interested her or had any appeal to her except the Arts and Crafts Fair, the Bellevue Arts and Crafts Fair. And she said, I wish every day could be like the Bellevue Arts and Crafts Fair. And I always thought about that. And since I've been on the council, I started on the Parks Board and the Bellevue Network on Aging. I've worked really hard to try to make our downtown appealing to the people who live here. And I think the Grand Connection, if you haven't heard about that, that's going to be this amazing ped bike connection from the East Trail over in Wilburton over 405 right here to City Hall through the core of the city by the Art Museum to the downtown park all the way down to Maidenbower Bay. That I think is going to be a huge gift to the residents of Bellevue, and I'm excited to get that done.
I've, again, been in Bellevue so long and on the council for so long, so I've got lots of interesting experiences. But in my mind, every day I have a new experience, new conversation, always giving me some insight. And I have also been working with young people a lot. I have a youth internship. So I always talk to a lot of young folks. And it's always refreshing, when you hear from what the young people have to say. Yes, well, so I always run into a lot of folks. But even yesterday, a couple of days ago, I believe, I was at the Youth Link event, and about about a dozen young people were sitting on the table, and they were given information by staff, and they were asked lots of questions, and I happened to be there. And it's amazing how young people have insight to things that some of us don't see, because we've been so used to our own information, our own ideas, and our own discussion, our own knowledge. So we always assume that people understand what's the good, what's bad, what the benefits. But sometimes young people, they don't just sit there and listen. They just don't just hear everything. It's amazing what question they ask. They ask, I'm not going to give you all the details, but it's just the question, the insight, even though they may be only two of the young people, it's only middle school, 8th grade, and they were asking real tough questions. And I think that's really a good thing, that it's so refreshing. And when I was, again, talking about volunteering, I was involved with Boy Scout, Cub Scout, soccer coach, and all that stuff. But when you're in politics, when you have young people today, it's not just playing soccer anymore. They ask questions. They know what affect them. They talk about affordable housing. They talk about transportation. They talk about public safety. Can I finish? Alex, have respect. Let me finish. We don't interrupt you. You don't interrupt me. Thank you. So that's what I want to say. So it's amazing how young people, how many of you. So I want to encourage people like us who are immigrants, who are not used to asking us questions. When you have a question, please bring it up. Ask. Thank you.
Yeah, this question brought a lot of things to my mind. I would say that what I think about with community is that half of my time in Bellevue, 15 years, was in the school system where our kids were at Puesta del Sol and the international school, which draws from the entire district. So when I think about community, it's broader than just my neighborhood. And I would say this, the most memorable is not necessarily any one person, but the blessing that every time I went up to a door that they opened the door. I think about being an engineer and continuous improvement, it's the go and see, right? So when I'm at the door and community is sharing information, it's such a gift, because what I came to learn is that the issues around the cars are driving too fast down this road is really local. And the more that folks are willing to share with us, the more that we can be better to serve the community. So to me, the moments are many, but the one guiding thing that I think about is that whole spending time and going and seeing, because that's the only way we can actually serve the community in the best way, instead of making assumptions about what's going on in any neighborhood.
I really like this question too, because it really focuses on what I think is kind of the best part of this job, and it is the conversations. And some of them last a minute, some of them last a lot longer. But they're all, from all of them, I get something out of them. But in thinking about answering this question, I was reminded of a conversation I had with a community member before I ran, but was within the last year or two. And he grew up on a rural farm. And it was a lot of work, and they had to do a lot of work. And one of the stories that he related to me was that a part of what he and his dad would do, and he was not a fan of doing this, but his dad was, is that they would go out around the road that was near the farm and clean it up. They would, and like seriously clean. They had to get in, they were pulling out brush, they were picking up garbage, they were doing a lot of work. And he would be out there in the summer with his dad being dragged along to do this work, and frustration built up with him. And at one point he said, why are we out here doing this? Why are we taking our day working in the sun and really having to do a lot of work? And his dad said, because if we don't, who will? And, I heard that story, and it wasn't that they had any special skill. It wasn't that nobody else would, or it was only me, but that they saw a need. His dad saw a need especially clearly, and thought that they could make a contribution to it. So it wasn't this significant thing, but it was a little thing that they could do, and just it has really stuck with me because often it's that little thing, and it's the things that we can all do. And just having that awareness, doing this work has really been a benefit because I see these things all the time, and it's for me, a good call to action and just a good reminder that these opportunities present themselves all the time, and the little things can be really rewarding.
That was a good answer. This is a great question, and boy, so many great conversations over the years. A week ago or back in 2017 when I was originally running, but it makes me think of a quote from Barack Obama when he said that being a public official is like constantly drinking from a fire hose. And when you have a staff as experienced and professional that we do, the amount of force of information that comes to us all the time, it's quite daunting. That on top of Bellevue's stature in the region growing, and that always elicits more input and more feedback from different special interest groups, from activists, et cetera. So there's a ton of information, a ton of data that we need to read and look at every single week. And it always reminds me of a conversation that I had with one constituent in particular who said, no matter what, always talk to everybody. Get every possible different perspective that you can on any kind of policy that you might be making a decision on. Don't ever go into a room or into a conversation with preconceived notions about how you're going to vote in a particular issue until you've talked to everybody, then make your decision. So that is something I always keep in mind during conversations, during briefings, and during the time that we actually vote, and always keep in mind what's best for the residents of this special city. Thank you.
Yeah, the conversation, the question is, what's the conversation you've had with a community member that continues to be helpful for you as a council member? These are all things that relate to that. I think very specifically in talking about some work, particularly with a community and looking at what do we need to do now to going forward and things like that. And we were having good conversations about it, and I was talking about what we could do this and that. And it was really helpful to have the community member to say, that's good, but let's look at it this way. And so we sat there and talked for about an hour with it, and it was really helpful. And I think that's a very important thing for people in elected positions, and particularly in the council and all, to listen. And when you talk about something, you can tell people what you think. They want to hear that, but the most important thing is sitting down with them and talking about how they see it and what are the different consequences of what we're going to do or not do. And I think that's something we do all the time. We can talk about all these big issues and things like that, but the important thing is talking to the public, getting out there and looking at it, and then having that discussion with the council members and back and forth. But it all comes down to what is best for the community and how do we find out about that, going out and talking to the public. So I think that's very, very important. And, not everybody agrees, but I think the important thing is to go out and talk and to go out and work with people on this. And that's, I think, the reason that we have all, as a community, have really advanced and why Bellevue is where it is right now. Because we go out and we talk to you and you talk to us, and always you see something that I've done that you want to talk to me. And I know the rest of us, the other 6, feel the same way. So it all comes down to us working together as a community. And that's the real important part of our job.
Thank you, Councilmember. We'll stay with you, Councilmember Stokes. So we had an opportunity a week ago at this time. It was rainier more last week than it is today. But one of those things that has come together through many, many years of community work, community engagement, funding, and councils dating back, and this council as well, of the opening of the 2-line of East Link. So council members, I think almost all of you were there last week, but something that you noticed on Saturday that really stood out to you or in the weeks since that you have seen or read or conversation. So, Councilmember Stokes first, what did you see last week that just will stay with you for a very long time?
Well, the most exciting thing was the fact that everybody's excited about this. I mean, it was just an amazing event, and people, it was jammed, and people were out there talking about it. And what was really good, though, was in going along there for the first time, going behind buildings, going to a different place, is looking at Bellevue in a different way. And I talked to several people about that in terms of, wow, this really opens up our eyes to a lot more about Bellevue. And it also gives us opportunity, if you can go in less than 30 minutes from here to there, all the way across Bellevue, instead of driving for, maybe an hour, it really is very important. And it was just the atmosphere and the excitement of people that was so really, just really made you feel good. And I worked on that one. That's the first thing when I came in on 2012, and actually was with 2 other council members, and we worked together in putting this in place. And the council all, it's something we've all been working for a long, long time, and to see it now come up has just been amazing. But it's all about. It was so exciting that the community itself was excited about it. And I think that's important. It would have been really horrible if everybody said, oh, God, this is terrible. But, so it's just that doing something like this and having the public and the community look at this and say, well done, community. And it's all the community. It's not just us doing this. And we just put things in place that people want. So that to me was really an eye-opener in the sense of this is a really great asset. And we're very glad we've done that, and we have a lot more to go on it.
I'm going to do a bit of a time check. If you could each take about 1 minute, something that really stood out to you, and then we've got to head to buses. So, Councilmember Newhouse.
Okay, I'll try and be brief. Well, first, very grateful for the past leadership of council members that made that even a reality. So Councilmember Robertson and Wallace, and of course, Councilmember Stokes and Councilmember Lee, Claudia Belducci, of course, all made that a reality. And we can't forget that. We're blessed that we've had such great leadership over the years to make that a reality. And I'm just thrilled that we now have another piece in our multimodal system that gives residents another option to get across. Well, right now, get across the east side from Bellevue to Redmond, but the real cheesecake will be when it opens up across to Seattle. But it's just thrilling that we have more options besides cars. We want to always encourage people to look at those alternatives, be it bike, be it a scooter, be it walking. So this is another great piece in our transportation infrastructure, and I look forward to riding it for many years to come.
So almost all of our council members were there last week, except for me. So I'm the only one who missed. We had a long planned trip, so something I couldn't get out of. But certainly appreciate the comments that have been made so far. When I look at it, I think, this was a thing that was not destined to succeed. It was not destined to actually happen, but it was a lot of hard work that current council members and past ones and other county leaders put a lot of work into, and they got it there. And it is amazing. I mean, these are not the kinds of projects that occur very often in any city. And for us to have this amazing transportation resource that is going to go to parts of the city that we want to build housing, that we want arts and culture, that we want to bring people from the city, we want to go into Seattle. It is really amazing. So for me, it's just a thought of what can you do while you're there? What are those things, that effort you can put in, and that at some point, whether you're on city council or not, it could really turn into something amazing. So I kind of look for those opportunities. I'm not sure there's one that's as huge as light rail that's going to occur on my time on council, but I think there are going to be plenty. And we plant these seeds and we see what grows. And it's amazing what transit and light rail is going to do for our city.
Councilmember Zahn, and we do have about 3 minutes left.
I was just so excited to see the excitement in the community, because to me, light rail is about connecting communities. And so I was just imagining the possibility of Bell Red having a street dance in the parking lot. And When we finally connect, there was actually a Mariners game that night. And for some of the people I heard in the community, if that line would have gone to Seattle, they would have just gotten right on there to head downtown. So I think that that's the possibility that we're looking forward to. And the community's ready. That's why we saw more people than we imagined.
Councilmember Lee.
It's good, bad, and ugly. It's a great option. You know, we need to have options, so it's a wonderful thing. And the bad is that it took so long to do it, and but it happened. It's a great, good is also it's economic too, definitely. Bellevue is now, we're a first-class city, world-class city. The ugly is that it took a long time, even before it gets done. I was the mayor, and we have council members, like Jared mentioned. I appointed John Stokes and Kevin Wallace and Jennifer Robertson, who worked diligently with the neighborhood. The neighborhood has a lot of questions. I always said that the details, the devil is in the detail. So it gets done. So everybody celebrated. It was a great event, great day. Everybody's taking credit for it. But so anyway, so I believe that this is something that we all should be proud of because it took a lot of hard work, a lot of strive, and we all came together. And I think we have the best light rail product in the region, in Bellevue, because we work at it diligently, hard. We came to a collaborative effort. Thank you.
Thank you.
So what I noticed on opening day was how happy everybody was, but I really noticed for the people who have mobile impairments or challenges, how happy they were, that they were able to access equitably the station, the trains, get on and off, get around. I think that that's really wonderful to see. And I think the impact, even before we go across the bridge to Seattle, I think the impact will be felt when we have things downtown that attract our whole community. There are 3 places you can park, 2 in Bellevue, 1 in Redmond, that you could then take the train down to downtown and walk down to Snowflake Lane or walk down to the Arts and Crafts Fair. So I think it's going to be a real asset for this community.
Finally, Deputy Mayor.
I do not have anything to add. Everyone mentioned everything that I wanted to mention, but I'm going to use my time to ask you, please give a round of applause to staff, volunteers, our interpreter, and our council, please, and yourself to be here. A round of applause, please.
Thank you very much. At this point, we're going to head out for the different tours. I will note that there are signs up, and thank you so much, Council. Signs up for where each of your tours are. You will see our staff. They will help you get to that room or to that. I will be in here and at the information table. Have a wonderful time. Go experience Bellevue together.